So good morning and welcome back from Independence Day holiday weekend. So hopefully everyone is doing well in the throes of summer. This is our manufacturing technology working group, and we have a small collective here with us in person. So thank you for joining us. Wanted to be able to give you, here's the agenda for today. Let me move this stuff out of the way. Jeff and I welcome you back. I know it seems like it's been a stretch since we've all been together. We did have our last meeting was in person, hosted by the University of Hartford, and we did have about half of our collective joining us. So Jeff and I will talk through what that debrief was, and then a go forward plan. You can see by the bullet here that we anticipate breaking up into additional work streams to carry us through the coming months of this work. Our next in-person meeting will be scheduled 2 weeks from now on July 20th in the morning. And we anticipate hosting that at CCAT at the Silver Lane site. So we'll start promptly at 8:30. Callie Valeries will be joining us to provide an overview of Office of Workforce Strategy as it pertains to the manufacturing ecosystem. So we're excited to have her join us. And then it will be more of an active session for us, and Jeff and I will talk you through what that will look like. So please do plan to join us in person, and we will be looking for RSVPs. And after we adjourn at 11 on July 20th, we'll open it up for an optional lunch as well. So we will feed you while we're putting you to work. I know we have Beatrice on the line, and Jeff and myself. Ron is on PTO this week, and I don't see anyone else from our legislative collection. So if I'll just take a pause to see if anyone wants to make any announcements, if there's anything pertinent for our team to be able to know about. Otherwise, we'll just continue to roll through.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Great. Jeff, do you want to take this one?
Yep, sure. So as part of our last in-person meeting, we went through where we stood against our objectives in the legislative language. As everyone knows, our first objective was a database of Industry 4.0 service providers. Constep has been leading this effort. It's been paired up with assisting the Connecticut DECD and the MIF build their website on more general manufacturing support in the ecosystem. At this point, we think we've identified most of the service providers, public, federally and state funded service providers that are offering support in Industry 4.0. And this list here goes over those that we've got some information on. So we think from a perspective of deliverable one, we're in good shape, and can make a good case that we've reached out to get relevant information from those service providers.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. And thank you to the interns that have been supporting the Constep team in this as well. So we've been having conversations across both the service providers and then also some of our manufacturers as well. So a lot of work's been done. Now we just have to distill all of this in preparation for our October deliverable once we conclude this work. So in addition to reviewing our objectives, we talked with Charles and Allison and the others, and Karen and the others who were joining us at our in-person event meeting on June 22nd at the University of Hartford. And, we're ready to take action. So this is just a simple graphic and some handwriting by one of our working group members about really the key messaging going forward in supporting our manufacturers, particularly those small to medium size, and those who are not necessarily the early adopters who are a part of our working group already. So what and who cares, right? We need to be able to say succinctly and concisely messaging of why we need the other hundreds, if not thousands, of manufacturers across the state of Connecticut to jump on as early adopters for Industry 4.0 technologies. What we want to be able to do with this group, particularly the manufacturers, is to support Paul Lavoie in his Manufacturing 2032. So the 10-year plan, the strategic plan that he will be building. And as you all know, Paul's been on his tour across Connecticut and has already racked up a couple hundred service providers, manufacturers, those in the ecosystem. So he's been doing a lot of work, and we want to be able to have our influence a part of that. So you may be familiar with the technology adoption curve. This is one that we've just pulled as an example. You could, see some of these quotations here as to maybe this is things that we all have been hearing across our peers in the manufacturing space. There is this, we do have early adopters as far as those a part of this working group and some others. But there's a chasm, right, between early adopters and the majority. So depending upon what type of tech curve, adoption curve that you look at, you'll find that at the onset of this curve, there's, a valley of death per se. So that's the chasm that we really want to avoid. And, as we have a really phenomenal manufacturing ecosystem, the peer base just really as far as I recognize, wants to help each other, because really we're all on this together as the state of Connecticut. So these are, just some images and to express really that we're all ready to meet the mission and to move forward towards action. So as we, had alluded to, we're going to continue the ecosystem mapping work group. So that's a continuation. But these upper two boxes that you see here is the 2.0. As we are going to then, Jeff and myself will be leading two of these work groups. We'll have an in-person active session when we join together at CCAT on July 20th in 2 weeks' time. We're going to look at the gaps in services with the service providers. So all of those across the ecosystem, taking the customer journey map, the SIPOC, and the VSM 1.0 team and the work that they've done to really then just close on our deliverables for this working group and why we're all together. For those in the manufacturing space, right, all of our SMMs, we want to be able to talk through, be data driven and data informed, and try to carve out a plan of how we can support the Manufacturing 2032. Jeff and I have looked at some of the other states' strategic plans, and a lot of it is like 50 pages of really high gloss, success stories. But what we want to be able to distill is there's urgency and impacts that we as the state of Connecticut want to bring toward our manufacturing ecosystem. So I'll be convening the manufacturers that are there in person, and we'll talk through this. Again, we're at the point now where we want to be able to make data-driven decisions. And so in advance, we do want to prepare you and put in front of you, more data, more info, more insights. And so that's an action that we will be taking for that. So again, hopefully the July 20th meeting is already on your calendars and you are intending on joining us. I'll pause here to see if Jeff or Beatrice or anyone else in our group wants to talk about this, raise some questions, have some conversation. Is it straightforward enough? I'll take a pause.
Yeah. Thank you, Jackie. So I don't necessarily want to add anything to it in more than we heard you loud and clear, particularly prior to the meeting in Hartford. The biggest concern that was coming from our partners is, so what? Correct? So what? Where do we go with it? And I was very encouraged by the conversation that we had at the University of Hartford, where people really came together on us around things that we wanted to do, particularly in support of Paul's vision and Paul's action actions, because there is recognition that the plan that he is putting together is gonna drive a lot of the funding and efforts, at least from the state, moving forward. That said, one of the things that concerns me a little bit is the how fast and how clear can we identify these things moving forward, and then a recognition that it will be a loss to let this team totally dismantle, while we recognize people are busy and have their lives to run their companies, to totally dismantle with this particular effort. So we have to turn this report, but the idea is that we continue to do support meaningful initiatives on behalf of manufacturers that were grown from this. So, I just wanted to add that, because it was a really good meeting, but it concerns me that we're in the summer and October is coming and people are going to feel like, okay, we're moving forward and that's it.
Hi, Dee and Jackie and Jeff, thank you. One question that and I apologize, I missed the June meeting because I was out of town, but I just want to fast forward a little bit to the goal here being obviously that Connecticut becomes a leader in Industry 4.0, and Constep is the chosen partner to come into businesses of various sizes and help them implement, right? And I just want to make sure, one, I'm aligned on that's truly where we're heading, and two, where, how is Constep going to support that from a staffing level? Because as we start to evangelize, this and really where we want to go with it, we've got to make sure that there's, the robust platform behind us. So will that be pulled in at some point of these upcoming meetings of kind of what those partnerships look like?
So the first part of that is with the recognition, we are moving forward to first get the staff cross-trained. People that normally will have not been doing, let's say, Siri, will get some training either on Siri or another tool to have enough. But then also the recognition that we have to be very strategic on saying who is the sweet spot in the first year, in the second year, in the third year, because it's not going to be possible to really go about in 1 year, we're going to do everybody. And nor we had a really good conversation when we met, nor they're all ready to do that. So I think the key is going to be on some of that conversation that chart shows, which people need to be, which are aware, which are, need to be aware of these technologies, which are ready to transition and then need to be assessed. And then which ones are leaders that are actually helping us educate others. So the key word for us as a team is basically that map, to take the companies available and break them up, do some level of segmentation that then allows us to put the right level of the resources, at least in a plan. And we hope to be doing that in the month to come, in the months to come.
Okay, excellent. That sounds great. Thank you.
We had talked about during our conversation at UHART about Siri Lite or some assessments, right, of evaluating and assessing businesses on where they are and what tools they might need. So we know that the service providers, we're pretty lean, and how do we really just multiply and monopolize on what we have and get that strategic plan? So there's been a lot of input already from folks a part of this working group, and we really just want to turn that into action. So that's a great question, Nicole. Thank you for that.
Jackie, do you intend to survey the group again to formalize the issues or their concerns or what's on their mind, or you want to expand it to others, small manufacturing, small to medium?
That's a great question, and I think we've considered this team of manufacturer SMMs to be those early adopters that have already implemented, one, if not several different types of i4.0 technologies. But we know that this is just a very small segment of that population. And so I think as we can, right, to Beatrice's point, what is the segmentation? What is the critical mass? What are those reasonable numbers of companies that really need and or want to adopt i4.0, because there's some that are completely just going to be on either side of that adoption curve, like don't need, don't care, or this is never going to help my business. So we need to be able to, make data informed decisions. And to do that, we certainly need the voice of manufacturers. So I think that's, a point that we'd want to have CMC and other, convening to take place to really then be informing and having more of a voice. We've talked about a survey. We haven't necessarily put a plan to action for that, but I think it will be necessary, right? Because this is all the manufacturing 2032 will inform Paul LaVoie's strategic plan for the entirety of the state of Connecticut, and not just our small collective of great manufacturers that we already have on this journey. So great point. We're taking that to heart for sure.
Thanks.
Any other discussion that we want to engage at this time? Okay, so hearing none, we have 6 more meetings together before our report is due. That October 1st report is really the ask of us is a strategic plan for manufacturing and i4.0 adoption. So that means recommendations that we will raise to our manufacturing caucus and the Commerce Committee and those legislators. That being said, we'll have at least 2 in-person working meetings, one coming up on July 20th at CCAT, please RSVP, and then one at the end of in middle of September. So we get a break in August, although we'll still be convening virtually. So that's very scary, right? As we approach the fall, then the countdown just comes to the end of the year, Q4, all of the good things. So I think I speak on behalf of our team that we've had really great engagement from this group. So thank you so much for that. We do look forward to being able to really, craft a plan with recommendations and, the requests for money and or additional resources that the state entities might need for those service providers. So Ginger will be updating our meeting for the 20th to reflect at CCAT, and then that standing meeting from 11 to 12 will be an optional lunch on the 20th, again held at CCAT. I anticipate that Jeff and I will be sending out meeting materials in advance for preparation, as again, we will be breaking out into these work streams for the service providers and then the manufacturers. So more to come. Before I close, I'll just again look to this team to see if there's any last remarks that anyone would like to make. But hearing none, I will call this a small convening and a success. So thank you so much for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you all in person on July 20th.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you.